Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Commercial television is here.
ITV has a special birthday coming up. The 22nd of September 2025 will mark 70 years since independent television first made it onto the airwaves. A revolution for its time, breaking apart the BBC's monopoly on the industry, offering viewers alternatives, and creating a space that for decades was simply called the other side. Now, like any other broadcaster, ITV has had its fair share of ups and downs throughout its 70-year history. But as the big birthday approaches, you can't help but ask, what are they going to do to celebrate? It's not uncommon for TV broadcasters to celebrate these major milestones. The BBC has frequently hosted anniversary programmes, special idents, and more every time they enter a new decade of life. I think it's fair to say that ITV's efforts have been more quiet in comparison. But for their Platinum celebrations, there's a few potential ideas that could really push the moment to the viewing public. The first of these may seem like the obvious one, but it would be to commission a series of special idents that mark the occasion. And I think a great model to follow with this would be ITV Creates. An initiative launched back in 2019, ITV Creates allowed independent artists to collaborate with the broadcaster and create some truly breathtaking results. We looked at all of these efforts on the ident review at the time, and some of these still remain firm favourites for myself and to many others. To refresh your memory, here's a little montage of some of the best.
Morning from everyone here at ITV, where we've another fresh look for you this week with resident artist James Alex Hardy taking on the challenge.
Well, good morning to you all, and thanks for joining us this Bank Holiday Monday. And as a new week dawns, we've another fresh new look for you from our resident artist Rubina Aurangzeb Tariq taking on the challenge.
Now it's over to Philip and Holly for your Mondays this morning.
Well, just when John thinks he's achieved his dream of reuniting his family, a mysterious woman arrives to threaten to break them all apart when new drama Beecham House continues tonight at 9. For now, here's Philip and Holly to start the week on This Morning.
Launching our ITV festive look, this design has been created by artist Faith Bevington. And look out for more festive takes on our logo coming soon.
Now, imagine this premise, but in conjunction with ITV's 70th. Week after week, we could be treated to a brand new sequence that both celebrates ITV's long and varied history, whilst also sharing the unique flair of the collaborating artist. This teamwork-based effort worked more often than not for ITV Creates, and I see no reason why it wouldn't work to celebrate 70 years. And for those who may say running special idents for a whole year would be too long, well, on that one, we'll just have to agree to disagree. Several channels run their anniversary idents all year round, and why not? We're already into 2025, and no new idents have materialised, so perhaps the idea of all year round special ones we can cross off the list. However, even if just one unique 70th ident is produced, perhaps debuting around the time of the anniversary itself, then at the very least, you can argue ITV did the bare minimum when it comes to marking such an occasion. The second idea I'd look to put forward is to really access and utilise the ITV archive. Considering its regional history, with several different companies involved in producing classic after classic, then why not make some of those available again for the masses to enjoy? Why not air special repeats of milestone moments? The first episode of Coronation Street, perhaps? Or the first edition of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Two wildly different types of programme, but both equally making a major mark for both ITV and the TV industry in the UK generally. And don't just limit these gems to the traditional schedule, there's scope to upload a boatload of classic content on the broadcaster's streaming service ITVX. One of the biggest complaints of the service that I've seen and heard from viewers is that there isn't much in the way of programming from that golden age of television. I completely understand that some of it will be tied up in rights issues or disputes, and some things ITV may not hold the rights to anymore at all. But I refuse to believe that they have nothing to give in terms of exploiting their back catalogue, especially on ITVX, which not only is still relatively new in the competitive streaming market, but expanding their back catalogue with programming that will entice whole generations of viewers seems like an easy win. Plus, it may help give ITVX the boost it needs for 2025 if it wants to try and keep touting itself as a successful enterprise. And yes, I'm well aware the BritBox side of ITVX has a lot of classic programmes, but considering that this is locked behind the premium paywall, it's generally not accessible for your average viewer. For this 70th anniversary year, if ITVX were even to unlock the gates and unleash the BritBox content onto audiences for free, just for a limited time, that would be bound to drum up interest and engagement. There is another tangent to this point as to how the golden years of ITV could be utilised. Why not commission brand new programmes, whether they're documentaries or even dramatised versions of events to present to audiences? Take Nolly for example, which debuted on ITVX in 2023. Now, I know absolutely nothing about Crossroads, okay? I never watched it, I had no great desire to watch it, you get where I'm coming from. However, a new original drama, focusing on the show's biggest and longest serving star, written by Russell T Davies and starring Helena Bonham Carter? Sign me up, I'm there. And having now watched Nolly, despite knowing nothing about the programme tied to it, I found it a cracking good time. Nothing necessarily groundbreaking, but a fun 3-part story featuring wonderful performances and an insight into the ITV of the early 80s, and a star whose light was rapidly fading. At the crux of it, what I'm saying is, make more programmes like these. Why not do a dramatisation centred around key people or moments from other ITV shows, such as Corrie, Emmerdale, things like that? Just a few years back in 2020, we had Quiz, which was arguably based off an ITV low point, what with it being about the millionaire cheating scandal, but all the same, this was a good show, with strong actors at the helm and chronicling history in an engaging, entertaining and captivating way. I know an obvious barrier to this idea would be money. The TV world is struggling to not only come up with new ideas, but when they are presented, the barrier of funding constantly kills off new programmes before they've even begun. However, given it's the 70th anniversary year, and given the British public's penchant for nostalgia, I think investing in such new original dramas based on these ITV shows and characters would be a win-win situation for all involved. The final major point I want to talk about, and one that people constantly clamour for, is for the return of the regional setup that ITV once used to be based off, where depending on where you lived in the UK, a different company would be responsible for transmitting programmes to you. Some of them network nationwide, with others unique to your area, including regional news. Just take this Reddit thread for example, where users mourn the loss of the ITV network. As soon as Granada bought the entire lot off, they killed it. ITV will eventually go online only at some point, probably just as a streaming service and production company. I miss regional TV. There was so much more character. They have done specials for previous anniversaries, such as the 50th, but as the years go by though, fewer and fewer people remember the glory days of regional ITV, and that heritage doesn't seem to be something that ITV wants to celebrate or remind viewers about. I mean, you'd realistically have to be over about 40 to clearly remember the pre-1993 regional ITV companies, and of course, after 93 they rapidly consolidated, rebranded, and became shadows of their former selves. Wish some of those TV companies would come back. I'm just gonna say this right now. The old days of the ITV network are never, ever coming back. Since the 90s, when companies did merge or were bought out by each other, that alone was enough to signify that this once iconic system was pretty much done for. But whilst the actual format itself will not return, glimmers of its past could. It would be sweet that, say, before or after the main ITV ident plays before a programme, why not include a vintage regional ident too? Those who remember them first time around would get a good little nostalgic buzz, and for those who are younger like myself, it would be quite a thrill seeing these iconic sequences play out on our tellies. And if remastered or cleaned up, even better. It's such a simple gesture, one that would delight audiences around the country, and also pay a neat little homage to ITV's regional history. In fact, a brand new documentary, looking at the old regional structure of ITV in its peak, that would be a phenomenal watch. If new interviews were carried out with surviving members of various ITV network companies, think of the insights and history we could potentially learn for the very first time. Going one step beyond, why not a brand new retrospective programme, or indeed a series, about 70 years of ITV? Think about it. Each episode could cover a decade from the other side, starting at the beginning in 1955 and coming right up to date in 2025. Litter it with new interviews, plenty of archive clips and treats, and you could have a series that is not only bound to celebrate and honour ITV's legacy as a broadcaster, but one that could entice audiences and help them remember why they have fond memories with ITV in the first place. This is something I feel the BBC does particularly well when helming documentaries about itself. They're presented in a way that is easy to understand, full to the brim of archival treats, and leaves you with a warm feeling, as you remember the happy memories you have had with the broadcaster. ITV could easily replicate this result, and I believe they could do it really well. But I guess this all boils down to my overall final question. Will ITV do any of this for their 70th anniversary? I have to say, dear viewer, I don't really think that they will. I would love to be proven wrong on all of these points. Special idents, original programmes, celebratory documentaries, the works, I want it all. But given the current state of the TV industry and the difficult reality that ITV and all major broadcasters face going forward, I don't really think it's a likely outcome. Producing programmes big or small costs a fair bit of money these days, and ITV is a different beast compared to, say, the BBC. The Beeb has no issues in being able to celebrate its milestones and achievements, but ITV runs commercials, and if they want advertisers, and if they want them paying at a good rate, they have to produce programmes that will entice viewers but also draw in the advertisers. I'm not saying a retrospective programme on ITV wouldn't be able to do that, nostalgia is a big selling point, but with the TV advertising market going through its own crisis of confidence recently, I'm not so certain. At the end of the day, ITV will turn 70 on the 22nd of September 2025. And whether it's marked with streams of celebrations from the broadcaster or not, at the very least, the avid viewer, like yourself, can raise a glass to commemorate 7 decades of programming from the other side. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Makra, Sean Knock, Dord Khan, AJ Mac 200017, Deck, Jen, Traffy, Evan Hart 41, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Marnano Thurman, John Wakefield, Kieran Bolton, 40-something Manchild, Jerry Ralph, John McLeod, Saint Rocket 9, James Wallace, Ben, Kat Hegarty, and Stephen Oliver, our AMTV staff members.